Joining me right now is U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow. Senator Stabenow, it's always good to see you.
You as well. It's been busy.
It's been very busy here. What is the number one question people are asking you about when they corner you here in the parlor?
You know, of course, almost everybody I'm working with on some kind of a project. I mean, with business people, educators, hospitals, and so. But the number one question I get asked sort of is, how are you surviving in Washington? And what's it like up close?
Yeah, what is the atmosphere? And how do you answer them on that? Because
there's really two levels. I mean, there is genuine chaos from the administrative, from the White House and the administration. I mean, just very chaotic. Day to day, we're not sure what's going to happen, which makes it hard to plan and make decisions and so on with people. But then there's another layer that I work in, which is people who actually are working to get things done. So people across the aisle, and this doesn't get enough attention.
I was just going to say, is it very hard that people don't actually see that, and why don't we see that?
Well, the tweets get the attention, and everybody is talking about whatever that sensational item is during the day. And yet last week, I worked with the chairman of the Environment and Public Works Committee to add several Michigan provisions to a water resources bill authorizing the Soo Locks, which last year when I was here, I led a delegation after Mackinac over to the Soo Locks to look at this World War II lock that handles most of the barges coming into the state and for the country. And if it was shut down, it'd be economic crisis for the whole country. So we have been able to get language in to authorize the building of a second lock and additional dollars for the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, extra help for Asian carp to be able to address the efforts to stop Asian carp, and a number of other things in that bill alone. And then now, even as I'm here, I've been on the phone with staff back and forth negotiating the next 5-year farm bill. I chaired the last committee.
Yes.
My colleague, Republican colleague, is chairing it this time, but we work together really well. So we'll have a bipartisan bill dealing with food and farm policy, rural development, hopefully in another week or so, couple of weeks. And so there's work going on. And for me, that is what I benefit from in terms of being able to keep me going, is that I can actually get things done for Michigan.
Kind of concentrate a little below the surface on some
Right.
things. So let's go ahead and talk about what's right through the window of the porch
Yes.
here, and looking at the Straits of Mackinac and the Great Lakes as a
Yes.
whole. Couple things for you here. You have advocated the shutting down of the Line 5 pipeline. What are you working on specifically that would end up where that line is shut down?
Well, my position has been that this needs to be safe. And if it's not safe, then it shouldn't be operating. So the question is safety, and the question is how do we go forward from
Do we
there?
have enough parameters in place, though, at the state level? Are we holding Enbridge to a high enough safety standard in operating that line and the number of safety checks that they do or that they don't do?
I'm worried about that. I mean, I think I could not confidently say yes at this point. And I know there are a number of things that the state is doing. When the weather happened and there were concerns about what was happening in the pipe, Senator Peters and I sent a letter to Enbridge saying shut it down temporarily until it's absolutely clear that this pipe is safe. They did do that, but only for a short time. I think it was 24 hours or so. So there's a lot of issues there, and the state ultimately has to decide what to do, but the federal government has a role on safety. There's a pipeline safety board, and we've gone in basically to push to make sure the Coast Guard has equipment. Believe it or not, they haven't always had the equipment to deal with ice, a spill during ice. Most of the cleanup procedures have been for salt water, not fresh water. And so a whole range of things around the integrity of the pipe, the safety of the pipe. I think there are a lot of questions, and we need to make the Great Lakes and protecting the Great Lakes the highest priority.
Let me ask you also along that vein, and you mentioned working on stopping Asian carp. Where
Yes.
is the Army Corps of Engineers right now in terms of their report and their plans to stop? They've been working on this now for 10
Too
years
long.
or so. Yes.
Too long.
Yes.
And I've been pushing every step of the way. It was my legislation that got them started on this report, and it's just been a slog, frankly, just slow and slow and slow. And here's where we are. This report on what it will cost and what we should do to fully put in place technologies to protect us from the fish coming into the Great
Beyond
Lakes.
beyond the electronic barriers in Chicago?
Well, it's electronic barriers plus. I mean, what we've found is that there's a spot 40 miles south of Chicago called the Brandon Road Lock and Dam where all the rivers come together. It's really the choke point. So if you put everything there, I mean, that's really the spot to do it. And we've had research being done on things like sound booms, sound technology. These fish respond to sound. They jump out of the water. Various technologies that don't impede the ships going up, the barges up the river, which has been the real, crisis.
So everyone will look and say, how much is that going to cost? Where is that funding going to come from?
Here's the thing. The Army Corps of Engineers did a study. It's actually something reasonable. The cost is reasonable to do this. The problem is that report should have been out by now. It was supposed to be out. The vice president from Indiana, close to the barge operators who don't want us to do anything, held up the report. So this new bill coming out of committee is going to require them to finish and release this report. So we've got the cost estimates. Once we have that, we can go forward in the Appropriations Committee. There is bipartisan support to address this. These fish are 100 pounds, no functioning stomach. They get into the Great Lakes. They will destroy the other fish populations and the plankton, and so as well as jumping out of the water if somebody's on a jet ski or skiing. So I've been very focused for a number of years. So far, we've kept them out because of a number of strategies, working with the state of Illinois and so on. But these fish aren't waiting. They're not waiting for some report to be released. They just keep on swimming.
And it's possible that once we detect them in Lake Michigan, it's too late. It's too late.
So I have a great sense of urgency about this.
Okay. U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow, thanks so much for joining me. Sorry we ran out of time, but
That's
it's always
okay.
good to see you.
Yeah.